At Fairhaven College, just to give you a little bit of a flavor of Fairhaven College, we're a bit different than the regular campus. We teach a bit differently in terms of our pedagogical strategies and methodologies that we use within the classroom setting. It's much more student-oriented. That is to say that students are much more accountable in terms of what they contribute to the class, to discussion within the class. And the other element is that we do very little of any type of lecturing within Fairhaven College. So as a result, it has to be the type of setting where you have complete interactivity between yourself and the students and engage the students within the learning process so that the students, very much from the very beginning of the course, they have certain prescribed ways of becoming full members of the classroom environment. And that is to say, with Fairhaven courses, they do a lot of the teaching themselves. They bring up many of the research questions. They also formulate groups that will do research on particular topics. So again, within Fairhaven College, it's much more of a self-motivated process. And so the professor, in a sense, acts as a guide, a facilitator, less in terms of prescribing everything that a student has to do. And so within Fairhaven, we try to strive for kind of a Socratic mode, but I think we even expand upon that Socratic mode to say that everyone is a teacher within the classroom environment. I think it makes for a very exciting classroom because then the instructor, classroom professor, is learning just as much as the students and taking a lot of the students' feedback as well in terms of their particular ideas or their particular modes of disseminating information. In and of itself, I think it's very successful with ethnic minority populations, for example, because many times what happens in a, let's say, a more formalized structural environment where you have either large lectures or even a small lecture environment, you'll find that many of the ethnic minority students do not have a certain comfort level in terms of either projecting their ideas into the class, or they feel that the environment is not totally welcoming in terms of their projected ideas or their concepts into the class. I think within the Fairhaven context, it's much easier to reach those students because they know that part of the classroom environment is contributing to it, is taking into account their ideas, their conceptions. And so as a result, I think it's a much easier process for them to contribute in that way. So I think, yes, Fairhaven, I think in many ways is very much a setting that allows different population groups to contribute in the way they want to contribute. And for example, I've had students, international students, I've also had different ethnic minority students who have done really very different types of projects. For example, I've had students that have done, rather than turn in a term paper, they have done a portfolio of poems that they bring to the class and read the poetry in class. I have students that have composed songs and bring those songs and they will sing those songs to the class. So I think in many ways Fairhaven allows for creativity, allows for difference, and allows for a certain expansiveness that you don't find in, let's say, the more structured, formalized classroom environment.